Talk no more, none of that shit. I'm gonna let you saying
Let's go, hey.
got me started. Wrist frames carded. Pull up double parking. Don't even pay like I'm the owner. My young niggas retarded.
Yo, what up, guys? It's Caleb back again with Julian and Kam with another episode of 6 Month Madness. We're here in week 3. Starting off this episode, we're going to go around and kind of talk about the games that we picked last week. Kam actually picked last week's slate, but we're going to talk about some of those games. I first wanted to toss it up to you guys. Julian first. What was one thing that you enjoyed last week from the college basketball season?
I mean, I'll keep it plain and simple. We're out of buy game hell, ladies and gentlemen. I've hinted at it a couple of times. But man, not it's cool too because like the games early in the season, the few good games that we had were really, really close. And now it's like there's a close game on every 5 minutes. You know, you're jumping from game to game to game. It's a really competitive landscape in college basketball this year. And I mean, I have a couple of title favorites. I mean, do you want me to shout them out right now?
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, for me, it's got Kansas has to be the front runner right now. After their win against Duke without Hunter Dickinson after he kicked somebody in the head in the second half. And Auburn, just the grittiness of that team. They're such a classic Bruce Pearl team with a player of the year candidate in Janai Broome. And it's a team that y'all were not as high on going into the season. Just wanna throw that little dig out there.
I was solidly high on them. Was I not?
Y'all were saying that I heard the term overrated thrown around when it came to Auburn. But
I'm a big Broome believer, and you know that.
yeah,
I'm the
no,
first
I know.
to admit that they exceeded my expectations slightly. I thought they were easily a top 20 team in the country, but they were getting like top 3 in the country preseason. I didn't see it, but wrong.
They've
I'm wrong.
I had them 5, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was in the boat of where I probably had like most of my preseason top 10, if we really shaped it out, was probably going to be mostly Big 12 and SEC teams. You know what I mean? I probably would still had them like around the top 10.
I mean,
or
they
11.
weren't in a couple of people's top 5s at the conference. I'm just saying.
Had Cam Helm at 6. Let's be transparent. We all had
Yeah,
Broome.
that's not
We all had Broome
people.
first team preseason.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who had to do Thiero on any all conference teams, probably in most of the media.
He's been killing it too.
So
Arthur Kaluma? No, I guess Arthur Kaluma love. He's a very good player.
He's sure.
yeah, all right. We're done. We're done.
All right, let me get
We're
out
done
of
tossing props. Cam, what is one takeaway you had last week watching some games?
here. Back to him. Auburn is scary. They know how to grind out with you, and they have plenty of talent to go at you with. Also, and it makes me so happy. Houston is overrated. It's
We'll get into these games specifically. We'll take some time to break down each of them. But did you have any thoughts from outside of the 5 games?
I didn't even know that was one of the 5 games. Man, no, I can't think of anybody outside these 5 games. Let me
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
like
we packed a really good slate. And these are most of the games I watched too this last week.
I'll say if New Mexico wasn't on there, Donovan Dent and that Lobo squad and Nelly Joseph, they've been putting together some very good wins out there in that kind of high major non-power 5 area in the Mountain West. I think some of the Mountain West squads are legit at the top, and they could scare a few teams.
Yeah, facts. I'm a big fan of New Mexico. Obviously, they lost JT Toppin, but have remained a really solid squad with some of the players that have stayed around. Um, Kind of circling into some of these games from last week, and we just want to go through. Um, we'll do this every week now rather than kind of talk about new faces, new places. We've kind of brushed up on some of the big transfer names. Obviously we saw the Visic brother clash, which was fun, and a good game for Tomislav.
Yeah, you won that.
Came out on top for that one, shooting the cover off the ball. So it's fun to see both those guys hooping at their peak. But getting back to the slate, we had Wisconsin and UCF. Um, I mean, just kind of the story of the game, I guess, was just Wisconsin has a much more efficient offense at this point of the year in terms of what they want to get to. Um, UCF struggled at times to get things going. A lot of their players really just need the ball to be successful, and just don't see a lot of possessions where there's a lot of swings, balls getting to an open shooter, and a guy's knocking an open catch and shoot shot. And although that wasn't happening a lot for Wisconsin, both teams shot pretty bad from three. It was just happening a bit more, and that can make the difference in the game. Um, 21 to 10 assists was something that definitely jumped off the tape when you were watching as well. The ball movement for Wisconsin's been pretty good this year, and is a typical thing you can expect from Greg Gard teams.
Yeah, man. I think that going in, I kind of looked at the resume from UCF and thought that they'd played people, they'd look really, really good against other teams, but I think Johnny Dawkins is going to have this issue going forward of who is he going to give the ball to first. I know Ivy Curry has been the guy, um, but he's kind of been a bit hit or miss at times. I know they're kind of looking to see what Keyshawn Hall can do. I know they're trying to figure out if Darius Johnson. There's just like a lot of guys that could be the guy, kind of like you said. And I think they thought it was going to be Ivy Curry, and he's at times underdelivered. So I think Johnny Dawkins is gonna have to readjust. I know they've played pretty well in the win over Milwaukee. They had a rough loss to LSU following that Wisconsin defeat, but I still think this UCF team is good despite that. Wisconsin is just a team that we all did not see coming at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should get too ahead of ourselves on Wisconsin's success yet. Um, I think this is a really good team. I like John Blackwell. I shouted him a lot and gave him a lot of praise in our unreleased Big Ten pod. And he's somebody that I've been excited about since I got to see him a bit as a freshman. He's grew into his own. John Tanji, we talked about a little bit pre-pod, has been really impressive and somebody that we were all excited about preseason. Um, yeah, this team looks good. Obviously, you know, what are you gonna do when Kamari McGee drops 14 in 19 minutes? You know what I mean? If you're UCF and that bench matchup, somebody else has got to rise in the moment. Dior Johnson, is a guy that can maybe get more touches if Ivy Curry is somebody that's turned to less. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what takes place. Moving ahead, we have Duke and Arizona. Another pretty decisive game. Arizona was hanging in there a bit at the beginning, and then Duke kind of just took over and we're kind of fending them off throughout the rest of the contest. Um, Really impressive game from Cooper Flag. Um, it was a really high volume of him from on offense, and it was cool to kind of see him be able to be the guy and fend off a really, really good team. I think that speaks a lot, especially when he didn't shoot like, lights out, 45% from the field, and, didn't shoot a ton from three. But I think this is something that we'll see a lot of him going forward, where he's so dominant on defense that he doesn't have to be ultra efficient on offense. You can still go to him in a high volume because of his playmaking ability at times. Just all around a superstar. Like this is just the type of games where um number one pick. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking at it from the Arizona lens, because I look at what's going on with this team this year, and it's just a ton of disappointments so far. Uh, I just, at the end of the day, and I hate to say this over and it feels like I'm beating a dead horse. I just don't think you can win a lot of college basketball games against great teams if your star player averages more field goals attempted than points. And
two
Caleb
things
Love,
about them especially. Krivas has been great. Krivas has been really solid. And I think some of his playmaking has been underutilized. He's been hyper efficient. And Anthony Del Orso has been completely underutilized.
yeah, they're favoring tough shot making with, Bradley and Love over gifted playmaking. And I think that's a big mistake from Tommy Lloyd. And it's why you know, since that game, their only win is over Davidson. And like, yes, they lost to West Virginia in overtime, but I mean, look, they've gotten the brakes blown off of them by two teams back to back and lost to two teams that we think that they should be beating. So I think, we know where Duke is. Um, I think this was more of a wow, is this really what Arizona's going to be this year kind of game, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Cam, any thoughts?
I pretty much got it. Go to the next segment.
We still got Auburn, Iowa State. What
Mm,
are our thoughts on that game, Cam?
I would say definitely an Iowa State challenge. They're gonna have to beat a hot Auburn. I don't know.
Well, Auburn beat Iowa State 83-81.
Oh, I'm bugging. You talking about the game that just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, Broom got off in that game. I was really impressed with Josh Jefferson early in that game. I forgot you watched that game. Yeah, he came out with like 9 points. He was the St. Mary's transfer. I was extremely impressed with him. Uh, Keyshawn Gilbert and that Lipsy. Lipsy struggled a little bit, but with Lipsy and Gilbert out there, they're able to come back. They're able to play off each other. Whoever plays bad, and then obviously Milan bringing in that shooting from the wing, on top of what Jefferson was bringing. Iowa State is just as good as anyone in the country. I don't think them losing to Auburn says anything bad about them. It just kind of shows you how stacked Auburn really is. With just the looks they can give you with Quagis and Pettiford off the bench, and then with Mazzarella, he got hurt in that game. He came back though and still gave him belt. He's just he's too much for teams when they still have to worry about that backcourt with Kelly and Jones, and then they still got to be able to guard Broom all day. And then Chaney Johnson, surprisingly, just he hurts all game. That's all he does is just makes positive plays, and he'll go off for 22. So Auburn stacked this year. They should really be SEC favorites for now. I think while other teams kind of figure out themselves, like Arkansas, but yeah, they're scary, man. Beating Iowa State that's a big time.
Yeah, I've really liked what I've seen from Pettiford in some of these big games, where they've kind of turned to him on the bench for some pop, scoring wise. It was something that, we said about him that was going to be reliable, maybe not the playmaking as much, but being able to be a bench scorer was something that this team needed to be successful. And what have we seen? You know what I mean? We said that would do a lot for their starting lineup in terms of, their size and versatility, in the front court and on the wings. They've been dominant. Yeah. Good. It's been good stuff from Auburn. And I agree with what you said at the top. I don't think that there's an indictment on Iowa State as a team. I think that they still have a lot to fight for this season. In the Big 12, they're going to be one of the better teams. So Yeah, was a really good week of basketball because we're still talking about two huge games. We had Duke and Kansas. When Duke falling to Kansas by 3 points. What is your takeaway from this one? I'm just kind of looking over my notes. I didn't have anything that I wanted to really lead with. I like I said in the first game, I thought that game showed that you can really play it through Cooper Flag and he can lead you to victory over some of these big teams. And I just felt like they kind of went away from that a little bit. And I would have just, liked to have again seen Cooper Flag go again downhill over and over and over again, trying to get to the line, trying to draw people to the paint so he can kick out and leverage some of the shooting that is on this roster. And speaking of which, I'd really like to see John Shire go to more of this bench and see some guys that they can get to shoot the ball a little bit better than they have. Mason Gillis, 1 for 4, just can't happen. He's not a guy who's necessarily a knockdown shooter. He's more of a defensive player and a guy that you want to have as a connective playmaker and somebody who's just, playing the dunker spot, getting the ball in a cut. Um, so it's kind of going to be interesting to see how this rotation changes because obviously this Duke team, I don't think that there's much that you really want to tweak with. They're super versatile in terms of how the starting lineup can play, and they can kind of weave in these three other guys and have like a pretty short rotation. So I don't know. I just don't know what this team needs to do necessarily differently besides maybe play a little bit more through Cooper Flag at times um, to kind of, take them to the top because this was a really good game.
Yeah, with Duke, I kind of feel like that this is what their ceiling is. Um,
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of trying to figure out. How
yeah, look, Flag's great. Obviously, Knoble had a terrible shooting night, which does not happen very often. You don't see him go 0 for 8 from three. Um, you know, very frequently, but his playmaking was really good in spite of that. I think Kansas was just a better team overall, and that's kind of why I have them as my title favorites. They just, you know, they have so many different guards that will get after you. Um, they have Hunter Dickinson as an immovable force, even though he wasn't there in the second half. But Badunga played really, really well.
I
I
mean,
think,
unsung hero of the game, and I mean, we shouted him out in the preseason. Plus 16, KJ Adams.
yeah, he is the ultimate glue guy for that team. He's exactly what they need. It's just a really, really well assembled roster, and I think Duke is too. But you kind of see times where the inexperience of Duke, especially both games that they've lost.
Caleb Foster had a rough one.
Yeah, it's the end of game sets for Duke in both of their losses have been atrocious. And it's funny because, Shire's been doing a good job out of timeouts in general, but for whatever reason, it gets down to those last 2 minutes and they cannot put a coherent possession together. Um, which, I mean, I would figure that out pretty quickly because you don't want to have that problem in March. That's how you get eliminated early.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Moving on, Alabama, Houston, overtime game. Um, what are kind of our thoughts and takeaways from this one? I have more thoughts on kind of the players that I liked from this one. RIP John Stevenson. I mean, just like he does nothing, honestly. Like it's been rough. Um, but I don't know. I mean, Mark Sears just can draw a lot of free throws. I mean, is that kind of like the story of this game, I guess? I mean, how I kind of felt walking away from watching this one back and then watch it live. Um, but Aden Holloway is going to be great for them next year. He's going to be probably first team All SEC. Um, but we were talking about pre-show, and I mean, for Mark Sears, I mean, it's just he's gonna have to get the whistle in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna have to get treated like a superstar. I just don't think he's like an elite downhill scorer. Like that. but I think he's exceptional at the college level, and this Alabama team is going to continue to rise up. But when he runs against the DeJuan Harrises and some of these other elite guards, I just don't think LJ Cryer is um, both them wore each other out, and LJ Cryer is solid, but he kind of gassed himself on offense. So I wouldn't put much stock in kind of the really high scoring night from Mark Sears, especially in terms of a lot of fouls he's drawing. Um, I weren't buying a couple of them. But yeah, that's me talking crazy. But yeah, I'm not a hater or anything like Cam. Can be in the GCs, but I'll definitely say that it was a rough watch with some of the whistle in this one. I don't know if you guys have felt this way at all either.
Bro, I'm not even. I'm not making that face because I feel like you think I'm for him as an NBA prospect right now. Like I don't. I think that's pretty much done. I think he could be like a two-way guy, like kind of in the G League or something. But like, I, I don't see any like real NBA path, like it's clear NBA path for him. I think it's way too hard for him to get downhill. I think for whatever it is, I think just defenses and teams are just better. So yeah, that the level of burst you're gonna have to create standstill advantages is just even higher now. And I don't think he has it. I don't think he has the burst. And like you say, he's a whistle merchant, so that's fine. Those usually translate. It's just he's a whistle merchant that can't get downhill, and he's barely 6 foot. So
I
and
mean, and that's what it takes to win That's what it takes to win college basketball games. So it'll be interesting to see how his game expands as he moves beyond this year. Because
I think he's
obviously,
lucky because Holloway and Phylon they have that level of burst, so they can create some standstill advantages for the squad. So it won't hurt
rough night
Alabama
for
too much.
Phylon, rough night for Phylon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
yeah, but
off.
yeah. He's just he's experiencing freshman downs right now. I think his past 2 games weren't good. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's just somebody that I see as a next year guy. He's way too unpolished, but I really, really like his game going forward. Um, and I like this. I like Alabama honestly as a title team more next year. You know what I mean? In terms of what they could bring back next year, and possibly bring in with some of the guys from this recruiting class. Hopefully, we'll see.
I think they're close. It depends on. It's crazy to say this as we had a Player of the Year candidate on the team, but I think Grant Nelson is the key to unlocking how far Bama can go. When he is getting after it, when he's on the glass, when he's attacking the rim, not even shooting the ball, he just has to attack closeouts. That's when they're at their best. Because when the guard play is not getting it done, I mean, they out rebounded Houston, which almost
Yeah,
unheard of.
100%. I think the key, along with that, I mean, what does Grant Nelson kind of represent is that idealistic and hyper valued role player. You know what I mean? And I think that they're going to continue to need a lot from Darion Reed and Muhammad Diabate, especially. We're going to need more from Cliff Omiori, to kind of obviously we're talking about them like this because they won the game. But I think all of us are kind of envisioning this team, what they need to do to beat a team like Kansas at full strength, or beat a team like Duke at full strength. You know what I mean? And when Duke's at its best, or what it could be. So I don't know. But a really impressive win. On I think by most people's standards. I think we're just a little hypercritical of some of our super teams in college basketball these days.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
when you're looked at as the best team, when we look at you as the best team in the country going into the season, and this is how you've been performing, I think we're right to be underwhelmed. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they're still winning and cruising along. But yeah, definitely could be a cleaner. You don't need overtime to beat Houston this season, I don't think. If you're Alabama where you want to be. You know what I mean?
San Diego State
Uh,
needed it, and they're better than San Diego State. They should be better than San Diego State.
exactly. I'm gonna roll into my segment with Cerebro Sports Players of the Week. I'm gonna keep it short this week. Where else can I talk about? And if we're talking about just pure analytical displays. Dylan Harper had two incredible days. Their loss to Alabama, which was pretty heartbreaking. They played so well, and him especially was just cooking. Especially following just a dominant win from him in particular over Notre Dame. Um, Super impressed. I mean, I know that we've been, singing his praises the last like couple weeks, and it may seem and sound redundant. But Dylan Harper is exceptional. So, big kudos to him. This Cerebro Sports Player of the Week. Some other names I want to mention. Milan Momcilovic had a big game against Colorado. Hyper efficient, 6 for 9 from three, 3-1 assist to turnover ratio, 9 for 13 overall, 1.714 points per possession. Cooked. Those are synergy numbers, but it's just been all around solid this year. By Cerebro metrics as well. I was trying to pull those up. My computer is hating me because I'm trying to look right now at cerebrosports.com, and I also have a lot of other tabs open. And you know why it's taking a long time? Because cerebrosports.com is one of the biggest basketball sports databases in the entire world. It is the home for, I don't know, I guess like tens of thousands, or if not hundreds of thousands of player profiles, with intricately inputted data, that also compounds into Cerebro's own 5 metric suite, which is highlighted by their metrics that they've made, RAM and CRAM, that helps you, the scout or basketball fan, better understand your team's players, prospects, and more. Go check out the link in the description. But yeah, Milan Momcilovic, Dylan Harper both been killing by even Cerebro measures and synergy measures. And I guess that's the main moral of the story. A couple other names, a shout out. I did just mention Mohamed Diabate for Alabama. He's been really impressive on the defensive end, just consistently stringing together really solid games, or when he's getting in there, he's impacting the game, getting his hands on the ball on the defensive end, and making plays at the rim as well, even though he's a bit undersized. Also wanted to shout out Joseph Sonnen, who's been really, really impressive for Arizona State. Um, Somebody whose tape you should go check out. And that's all I'll say on that. And we need to keep the show moving. But yeah, be sure to go check out all the Cerebro sports players of the week this week. And check out Cerebro Sports in the description. Yeah, those are the Cerebro Sports players of the weeks. We're moving over to Cam's. Can't miss. What are we selling this week, Cam? Hopefully it's some high value.
I was talked out of a couple guys. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the big fella from Auburn. Was it Johnny or Janai Broom? I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, Big Broom from Auburn. Been a fan since maybe like 2 years ago. Yeah, and then he really stood out in the NBA draft combine scrimmages. Just out there dogging pros, out there dogging grown men, NBA level talents. I was extremely impressed, especially him being 6'10", and 6'10" guy with touch is always something intriguing. And then he has all types of stuff on defense. He can go to. And you gotta love him. So this year he's been dominating every single game he's been in. Even his 4 big time games, he's averaging like 22, 13, and 4. Crazy passing, great defense, great rebounding. He's doing everything you can ask for a big. He's one of the most talented bigs we've seen in college basketball, especially at Auburn, especially in the SEC. He's dominant.
100%. He's been really impressive.
I can go all day about him. He should be definitely a top 50 NBA draft prospect. My next guy had to be the fresh.
Also covered
who's also
Okay.
covered.
Yeah.
It'll be the kid. Was he from Lithuania?
Lithuania. Yes, sir.
Casper
Shout out to
Shaw.
holidays.
Hey man, been a fan, A&GT merchant until he touches the floor out here in the stateside, and he looks like there's no equal. I mean, he's still 18, and it's still very, very hard for a defense to scare him. He just has an uncanny polishness to his playmaking and some of the scoring moves that he's developed over the years. He's extremely impressive. 6'6", had a 40-inch vertical at Basketball Without Borders. He's such an impressive prospect. He's only played 2 big-time games this year, but he's averaging 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in those 2 games.
Cam's in love with this kid.
I love him. He's gonna be. I have him right now, top 3 prospect. Just because of the age and the playmaking and the already polished scoring that we've seen. And then the role he's gonna have, in that Big Ten war zone, he's gonna be battle tested by the time he comes out. Hopefully he doesn't fall off a cliff. We'll adjust it, if he does. But for now, you gotta respect him. He has to be a very highly touted prospect.
Yeah. No doubt, Cam. You're on point with this segment. And there's nothing against Checky Hepburn. He's just not can't miss yet. He's just not can't miss yet. Shout out Chucky. Moving on to Winner and Weasel. Julian, what's the word? What's the
Oh
word?
man, I hate that I have to do this. You know this. I hate it.
Go
I,
ahead.
I
Say it.
hate
Go
it.
ahead.
My winner of the week. I have 2 winners this week. Coach and a player. My winner of the week, who's a coach, Greg Gard and Wisconsin. Um, look, they're just playing really good basketball right now. We'll get to them in the pick 'em, and I think they've got their real toughest test of the season. But say what you want about, which I will later, about Arizona. Pitt's really good comp. UCF is really good comp, and they made both those games look really, really easy. Uh, look, I had them picked as the worst team in the conference. I think maybe worst or second worst team in the conference. And they have flat out just proved me wrong. So I'm going to issue an apology to you, Caleb, and to your alma mater of Wisconsin because look, they're playing great ball right now. And the backcourt's great. My other winner of the week, because I do want to move through this because I have a couple more to get to. Jeremiah Fears, who another guy on a team that we thought was going to be terrible. But we did say going into the season, like Jeremiah Fears is going to probably get the keys, and we'll see what he does with him. And he has been spectacular, on both
I'm
ends of
not
the floor.
surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
I'm not either. I'm more surprised by the fact that he's winning them games than I am by the fact that he's playing well.
Mhm.
Because I would like to see him cut down the turnovers a little bit, but again, he's a freshman, so like we're gonna see a freshman who is given the keys to the offense have this kind of issues, but shooting 35% from three, averaging 17 a game, getting after it on the defensive end, he's averaging 2.5 steals a game. And, he's dynamic, man. He's so dynamic, and it's so fun to see him go to a school that we thought was going to be a train wreck this year. And he's turning them into a team that's going to compete in the SEC this year. They could. I mean, those are the wins that they had over the weekend are 3 very, very big wins. Um, you can discount West Virginia, you can discount Arizona, I don't care. We thought Oklahoma was going to be bad, and they're better than we thought they were, and he is the reason why. He's one of the main reasons why. I don't want to discount their other guards. Weasel of the week. I got 2 coaches who had a combined 7 losses and a average seeding, I think, going into the week of about 4. Talking Dan Hurley and Tommy Lloyd for entirely different reasons. Um, for Hurley, I mean, rule number one, dude, I get it. It's a bad call. You're in overtime in a tie game. You cannot get teed up. You just can't. I know, like, especially your coach who has national championship experience, man. I know he's an animated guy on the sideline, going to be an all-time great coach when he retires. But I mean, man, to blow your team a game by getting teed up and then go on to lose to a atrocious Colorado team and then not even be in the building with Dayton. Uh, Look, I know I talk a lot about buy games or whatever, but I think with this roster, you couldn't come into a season with a cupcake schedule, and I think it bit him in the butt a little bit. Um, and then Tommy Lloyd is just completely mismanaging his rotation right now. They brought in a ton of transfer talent, and I don't understand why Caleb Love is still taking as many shots as he does per game. I don't understand why Toby Awaka is not a elite rim presence. Motias Krivas, why is he not getting more touches? Like Trey Townsend, what's like it just feels like every single player that they brought in when you look at this roster um should make them a bona fide contender for a championship. And it feels like every single player right now is underperforming, and that falls on the coach at the end of the day. And as a result, they're 3-4. Their last win, and they've played four good teams. And no offense to Davidson, they played Davidson. It's their only win. They lost to Oklahoma, they lost to West Virginia, they lost to Duke, and they lost to Wisconsin. That's just inexcusable for a team that's supposed to be a tournament contender. So that's my
Just
winner
not
and
gonna
Weasel this week. No, not gonna cut it.
good stuff, Julian.
I got the pick'em slate this week too.
Yeah, Julian, you want to take us through the first game here?
Yeah, so I think there were probably about 6 or 7 games that I could have gone with. This Auburn Duke has to be one of them. We've talked about both these teams a lot tonight. Premier game. Um, I think it's a somewhat telling game if Duke goes out and loses this one, in terms of where their title hopes may lie. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think this is definitely kind of like you kind of put it, make or break for them in terms of where they stand early in the year. I think the Kansas loss said a lot about the flaws they had, which we talked about earlier in terms of some of the shooting absences that occurred, that got to be corrected and can happen again against another really really big team. Um, Me and Cam think that we'll see otherwise, and we will probably maybe see Duke come out on top. And that's what I'm kind of hoping for. Um I want to see Cooper Flag have another big game. Uh we got we get to kind of see him his first like is this his first like major like power forward matchup, like prospect matchup?
Uh, I guess you could say Carter Bryant, but that didn't really
Trade
pan
Townsend,
out.
Trade Townsend more, but yeah, even that didn't even pan out.
I meant in terms of like power forward prospects, but yeah. Although Townsend could be a prospect. Yeah, I'd say so. It's probably his biggest test.
Yeah, so
Um,
I mean we'll see if they guard each other. I think that'd be really fun. Um could be a good night. Baylor, UConn. I think UConn's bouncing back. I like the way that Baylor's been playing. They're on the up. UConn's on the down. Um, but I think that one of the best coaches in college basketball, Dan Hurley's got to look himself in the mirror. And like Julian laid out, there has to be some sense of accountability here as a coach, and look at what you have to do as a leader and where do I get this team back in the right direction. Um, and I think some of it falls on his own behavior, and his leadership. And I think that those things get corrected, and this team um, has been still playing solid basketball for the most part. Tars Reed's been a monster. Samson Johnson's been really solid. So their front court's been really impressive and consistent. Um, it's gonna fall on some of these guards. I don't think Aiden Mahaney's had the type of year we've hoped at all. Um, And there's been a lot of guys that haven't quite taken that step up and filled those shoes that Tristan Newton left, which are quite substantial. It's very clear that there's like a lot of weight to be in that UConn PG and initiator. And it was really easy the last couple years playing on that team because you had Tristan Newton. So um I don't know. We'll have to see, but I think that this UConn team bounces back. They they had a really good start to the year. They are a really good team and are really deep. Um, and Baylor, I think, struggles with a little bit of depth. So we'll see. And I think the front court of Baylor is not ready for the size and athleticism of UConn up front.
It's strength to strength. Uh, Baylor plays through their guards anyway. They don't care, and their guards are way better than UConn's.
That's fair. We'll see how VJ Edgecombe. If VJ Edgecombe can continue to terrorize on defense and kind of be a menace in space on both ends and make a ton of plays here and there. He's been a real like sneaky X factor. Obviously not too sneaky, but he's been like a sneaky X factor for Baylor alongside Omer. They've both been really putting together some really solid games in terms of spreading their impact all around. And it's led to some wins here and there. Marquette, Iowa State. Marquette's got, we'll talk about great offenses. Julian was talking about Wisconsin, one of the better offenses in college basketball so far. We got Marquette as well as in that conversation. And they've just been flat out unconscious in terms of just playing through Cam Jones and letting good things happen off of that. Um, Everybody on that team seems to be passing the ball well and shooting the ball pretty decently. And it's tough to stop when they also rebound the ball so well as a group. They get after it and get in lanes so well as a group. Not a crazy team at the rim, but I don't think that's like a great strength of Iowa State's. So I see this as being a game that kind of plays more to what Marquette's been doing really well, which is dominating on the perimeter on both ends. They've been really awesome on defense.
Yeah, they got the best player on the floor, man. In pretty much any game they come into, which
Mhm.
is in college basketball, especially if your best player is a guard, that matters. And I mean, Cam Jones has been unreal. Like you said, unconscious is the word. I mean, he had a triple double last week in a big, big win over Purdue. He's been a very, very early like front runner for player of the year, which I didn't expect him to take. Like I knew we knew he was very, very good. Um, but I think when they lost Kolek, I don't think we expected the playmaking from Cam Jones to skyrocket in the way that it has, which has been really, really fun to watch.
I kind of expected it a bit.
We as a collective, the
He's been
general consensus of scouting.
he's been like this, bro.
He has. I'm
He's
just
been
saying,
so
like it
he's
wasn't
been
a
so up done for like 2 years. Um, but yeah, he's getting his flowers now because there's just nobody else to pay attention to. Marquette's been balling. Um, Wisconsin v Marquette. Wisconsin's been great, guys, but I mean, historically, when Wisconsin is supposed to win, they lose, and when Marquette's supposed to win, Wisconsin wins. And I think this is a year where Wisconsin's got all the hype going into it. The Big Ten team has they have that big team feel right now. With how they've been playing, their starting lineup is so lethal. In terms of what they're able to do. With their three guards that all have decent size, and then the two bigs, that can both shoot it. Um, Modern basketball, it's finest. Who would have thought we'd see two stretch bigs on the floor for Wisconsin at one time? I mean, geez, I feel like I'm dreaming. Um, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying into the hype yet. I still think Marquette, their play style is to aim to shut down teams like this. They're going to make you uncomfortable and not let you run your Princeton sets and get your curl cuts going. And Wisconsin relies on those to be comfortable and to get the ball to their guys like Blackwell, that really need to get a lot of touches for them to be like, continue to overperform. And I think Marquette is the type of team that's been able to take AJ Store out of games with their defense. And they're the type of team that has been able to give other Wisconsin stars in the past some problems. So I think this is going to be another one of those nights. But can't discount how Tanji's been playing because he's really been impressive. One of the more impressive Wisconsin freshmen that we've had in a long time.
I believe he's a freshman, sir.
What?
I don't believe he's a freshman, sir.
Is he a sophomore?
I want to say he's a redshirt junior, or yeah.
I feel like he's a first year D1 eligibility use though, right? Is he not?
Nah, he came from
Colorado State.
Colorado State.
That's right.
But he came from Missouri last year. He was hurt.
He just didn't. I don't think he's played that much though.
No, he hasn't played in like 2 years, apparently, something like that.
I thought he was like a redshirt freshman. But yeah, he's nice. He was somebody that Cam was hyping up a lot preseason. I'd looked a little bit into him, but he's somebody that I just wasn't expecting to do that much. Freshman, redshirt junior, sophomore, senior, super senior, I don't care. He's been hooping, but I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it. Cam Jones is gonna take him to school. He's gonna show him what this Power Five like what life is supposed to be like.
Betting against your own team is crazy.
Dude, I mean, I'm a basketball fan. I just said UCF last week. And we were wrong. So it is what it is. I should have known that on my birthday, Wisconsin was going to, of course, win, despite my efforts and my wishes. But yeah, that's my soapbox. That's all I have to really say. I think Marquette's got it. They're geared towards stopping teams like this, and as impressive as the newcomer to Wisconsin basketball has been. Um, I'm gonna have to roll Marquette. What's the case for Wisconsin here, guys?
They're talented. Nolan Winter and Stephen Crowell. That's like no, that's not a pushover front court. And Blackwell, Tanji, and Klesmit. That's not a pushover backcourt. And then whatever they get out of Amos off the bench half the time is solid. Like they have some dudes, and then Gar has them running that offense like a well-oiled machine. I mean, they make sure they get an advantage in an open three every single possession. They don't bail you out on no possession.
Yeah, Julian.
Going to be a high scoring game. That's for sure. I mean, I know these teams love to play defense, but the way that they're both clicking offensively, I think it's going to be really, really tough to stop either of them. I just think this is a prove it game for Wisconsin. I think they're going to be ready for it. It's kind of a mentality thing. I mean, like both teams are playing really, really good basketball right now, so it's hard to I know Caleb said Marquette tends to be geared to beat these Wisconsin teams, but it just feels like Wisconsin's on a different Wisconsin level this year. They're not the
Wisconsin's
gritty,
defense,
grindy.
45th percentile defense in transition. Marquette, 91st percentile offense in transition.
Look, this isn't the same gritty, grindy, we're going to score 45 points in a game Wisconsin anymore, Caleb.
I know we're having fun now. We're really
This
moving
is
the ball. We're
this
pushing
is
the pace.
highly watchable Wisconsin basketball for the first time in probably 20 years.
I know I've been asking for it. I've been enjoying it, Julian. They're
it's
8-0.
they're
I'm
playing
not
great
I'm not
ball.
trying but I'm gonna continue to bet against them. I'm not gonna jinx it. And then I'm also not gonna buy into it because I don't want to get hype. You know what I mean? And then be like, oh, this Tanji kid's a dog, and he's gonna be a second rounder, and oh, like, you know, John Blackwell, low key could be a second rounder, and Winter's gonna be a second rounder next year. Like, I'm not gonna get like ahead of myself.
This is
And
like
they
new.
haven't beaten anybody that crazy. And like I just pointed out, they've been relatively weak defending in transition. And Marquette's been one of the better teams in the country at putting the ball in the hoop in transition. And I view that as a clear flaw and a mismatch. And I think Cam Jones is on a warpath, bro.
He's the best player on the floor in 99% of the games that he plays.
And the role players have been, as mid as they can get for him in terms of like who's helping him out. They basically have three guys that are the same player, and David Jopp, Chase
Oh,
Ross, and Stephen Mitchell. They'd all do the same stuff, but it works. You know what I mean? Like you want those switchable and versatile players to go alongside your stars. I think it works, and we're gonna see them carry it out. Carry out.
Can we get some clips edited in here of last year or 2 years ago when Wisconsin would get off to a hot start and Caleb would say that they're going to the national championship type stuff? Just to contrast.
It was never anything like that's the thing is like Julian would wish that there are clips out there of me saying such blasphemous information like they're going to the national championship. I've never made comments like that. Have I made comments like, oh, they could go on a run, or hey,
They're
they could be different, they could be decent? I think last year I said that they could like be a second round team, and they went to the second round, or
we
they got
talked
lost in the first round.
we talked about them for 4 weeks in a row like they were a top 15 team in the country.
Was that 2 years ago?
That was
They
last
still,
year.
that was last year. They still made the tournament.
Well. All right, fine, fine. I'm picking your Badgers. I think
I'm
they're gonna
picking,
win.
I'm picking, I'm picking the Golden Eagles, bro.
I think your Badgers might actually win this one. All right, good. Last game.
Yeah, before we lose Cam here. Um, Kentucky at Gonzaga. Kentucky's been playing really good ball. Um, Gonzaga has been playing great few ball. Um, so I find this to be a much tougher game than a unanimous pick, but I think Kentucky is just too talented to mess with for Gonzaga. Um, Julian, do you have anything specific on your mind? I got to search a Google search in my notes quick.
I
Um,
just they're I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But Kentucky is one of these teams where you can't really scheme for a specific player on a given night because if you scheme for Jackson Robinson or Kobe Brea, then you're gonna get beat by like Andrew Carr and Amari Williams and Otega Owe or like some of these guys they have off the bench like Kerr Kreis. Like they just have so many guys that can beat you in so many different ways and and all of these guys play hard on both ends of the court. And their experience, like this Kentucky team is for real. And I think Gonzaga finally showed a little chink in the armor after that loss to West Virginia the other week. Um, I don't know, man. This Kentucky team is just a juggernaut, in my opinion, right now.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if you want to talk about a team to contend with your favorites conversation, I mean, this is probably it right here. Um, Kobe Bryant has been obviously the most efficient player in college basketball with a 10 assist to turnover ratio and an 81.9 effective field goal percentage. Two absurd statistics. And Otega Owe, I mean, again, just kid's a dog, has been putting together some really, really good games. Lamont Butler has been really, really solid, and Jackson Robinson's been really solid. Um, th- I think the frustrating thing with this pick, though, and all of us going Kentucky is, I mean, I think we're ought to be wrong if all of us are going that one way because we've seen the same stuff you could say on the Gonzaga side. All their guys that they've had this year have honestly had pretty solid seasons statistically, um, and have pieced together like individually impact games. And they also have the guys, the names of the depth, like Michael Ajayi, anyone, Dusty Stromer, anyone. Um, that's a Cerebro Sports Player of the Week. Put some respect on his name. So yeah, they have a lot of talent, but like Julian said, all of this has been, you know, spewed out there just to emphasize Julian's point that Kentucky is too damn good. They have so much talent. And even a team like Gonzaga that can have and seem like everything's on the right track is going to run into this team and find out that Mark Pope has just got something different going on. Something different. Cam, closing thoughts?
Hey, I agree. I think Kentucky might grind it out with them, but they can also shoot it out with them. You know, they can go either way, like we said. But Kentucky, they're just been a little more proven, a little more stout. You know, West Virginia's put together. You know, they have guys everywhere you look, but they're not as good as Kentucky. Uh, it should be a way harder game than even that West Virginia game because they're gonna because they lost West Virginia. And I don't even think Tucker Devries did much. I think they just caught a Javon Small masterclass. So yeah, you know those guards at Kentucky, they're not gonna let up, and the shooting isn't gonna let up. The front court's more athletic. You know, I just think Kentucky just edges it out with them.
Yeah, a great point. I think a lot of the things that lost them that West Virginia game was athleticism in the backcourt. Like just like really downhill, and then also that pull-up shooting. And then also, unfortunately, athleticism, size, and versatility in the front court. And I think that those are things that, yes, are like, okay, Caleb, yeah, everybody's going to struggle against size versatility, but that's something difficult to find in college basketball. And Kentucky has a lot of it. Like Brandon Garrison is got like a 4 assist to turnover ratio. Like the dude's playing like 9 minutes, 10 minutes a game. But when he gets in there, he's one of the most efficient players on the court at any time. He's definitely more efficient than the other teams back up big on any given night. So it's tough. And Kerr Kriisa had a great year. Another guy who's, 4 assist to turnover ratio. You know what I mean? It like so there's real versatility and efficiency all up and down Kentucky's lineup. So it makes it tough, even for top tier performances. And hey, shout out Monty Hansberry. He had a crazy night against Gonzaga. So shout out
Hansberry,
him.
yep.
Yeah. Those are our closing notes, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you are having a happy holiday season with your families and friends, loved ones, and everyone in between. We're off the clock.